After traveling through the courtyard for 5 or 3 years, Li Yan activated the rebound system, and the curse of other people's calculations could reward him with rebound. Third grandpa. I just calculated on him to make a fortune, but as a result, I went to save my family to deal with the disaster. This guy can't be bothered. Second grandpa. I finally became a team leader, but I was dismissed because I played an official role with him. Where should I go to reason? Grandpa 1. I told him that young people should take care of their bodies, otherwise they wouldn't have children even after being a few decades old. And I really became penniless. Silly Zhu. I just scolded him for not being able to eat 3 dishes in his lifetime. As a result, not only does he eat a lot of meat every day, but his cooking skills are also better than mine. Xu Damao. You all said that Li Yan was evil. I didn't believe in evil. I cursed him for not finding a wife all his life. As a result, I became a bachelor and women wanted to marry him. Jia Dongxu. I always feel that Li Yan's woman should have belonged to me, and I feel like I've been living in his shadow all along. Jia Zhang. I cursed him for going bankrupt, but my son died. The thief god bullied my old Jia family. Huairu, a diligent and frugal housekeeper, Huizhen, a clever woman, and Chen Xueru, a beautiful confidantFeilu novel network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 1. Enter the city and start a new life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Siheyuan world. For 9 cities, Li family village. Li Yan was awakened from the cold. He suddenly sat up and opened his eyes to see the old, mottled, and unfamiliar room. He was startled and thought he was being carried out of the rented room by the landlord while sleeping. Getting out of bed and opening the door, a cold wind blew through his face like a knife, making him shiver uncontrollably. Li Yan was completely stunned, only to see that it was freezing outside, the cold wind was piercing, and no one was seen on the village roads. How could I wake up in this unfamiliar place when I was sleeping alone in a rented house in a big city? Also, with my body approaching 30 years old, why does it look different at this time? Li Yan quickly checked his body and found that although his skin was rough and his flesh was thick, he looked more than 10 years younger, which surprised him whole. What is the situation? The next second, Li Yan suddenly felt a piercing pain in his head, and then a clear memory surged into his heart. Have you traveled by yourself? Both of them have the same name and surname, and are called Li Yan. They are all hardworking people without a father or mother. The difference is that when I traveled, I was 28 years old, while this body was only 16 or 17 years old. After a long time, Li Yan, who had digested his previous memories, felt a shiver from the cold all over his body. He quickly ran to the stove to make a quick fire for warmth. As his body became warmer, Li Yan drank hot water while contemplating his current situation. I lost my parents since I was young, and later was adopted by my adoptive father, living together for 10 years. A while ago, after his adoptive father passed away, Li Yan became a true orphan, leaving only him and 2 dilapidated houses in the family. The only valuable things in this family are 2 skinny local chickens. As for the grain, it's all rough wheat. You can survive this winter by eating it sparingly, and you can eat pickled vegetables and dried radishes. But after finishing these things, what will we eat next year? The current time is the winter of 5 or 3 years. At this time, it has just been newly built, and the national grain production capacity is greatly insufficient. Moreover, rural areas are the most difficult, and they only rely on basic necessities to survive. To live better, one must develop into the city. But what can I do when I go to the city? I can't even stay in the city for too long without a letter of introduction. Just when Li Yan was at a loss, he suddenly remembered that when his former adoptive father passed away, he had pointed to a rusty iron box, and before he could finish speaking, he was out of breath. Quickly, Li Yan arrived at the room and struggled to open the iron box to look through. Inside were some banknotes, leader badges, and a yellowed parchment. To Li Yan's surprise, it turned out to be a land deed located in the 49 cities. This means that as long as you fill in your name, the house stated on this land deed is your own. There is hope in entering the city. But currently, we still need a letter of introduction. The one who can provide a letter of introduction for the entire Li family village is the village chief Li. This night, Li Yan was too cold to sleep well, and his clothes and bedding were not warm, which made him eagerly anticipate the arrival of dawn. As long as you enter the city, there will always be ways to improve your living conditions. The next morning. Early in the morning, Li Yan packed his bags, dry food, hot water, some road supplies, and 2 slaughtered and washed hens, and then walked quickly towards the direction of the village head's house. Halfway through, Li Yan hid a chicken in his backpack and continued walking with one. The weather is cold and the earth is freezing, and there is not much farming work in the village. Most people gather around their homes to catch fire for warmth, reduce activities, and eat less. The village chief's family was sitting for the stove at this moment, and when they saw Li Yan knocking on the door and entering, they couldn't help but be curious. Li Yan, are you? Early in the morning, are you preparing to go on a long journey? The village chief and his family greeted Li Yan, their eyes fixed on a freshly slaughtered and washed chicken in his hand, wondering what the kid wanted. Village chief, I would like to ask for your help with something. May I ask if it's possible? Li Yan smiled and asked. Okay, what are you talking about? Village chief Li nodded suspiciously. It's like this, now I'm the only one left in my family. I want to go to the city and see if I can find something to do in the city. You know, I have no relatives in the city and need to open an introduction letter. Li Yan stuffed the chicken into the village chief's hand and said with a smile. Could you please help me open a letter of introduction, village chief? Well, you child, just open the introduction letter. What other gifts are you giving? The village chief's wife was not polite and reached out to pick up the chicken. With a happy expression, she turned around and walked towards the kitchen. The others also swallowed their saliva crazily. It's been a long time since they ate meat, and today we can finally start eating meat. Isn't it just an introduction letter? I'll give you a detailed introduction, stamp it with the official seal, and ensure there's no problem anywhere. The village chief chuckled and patted Li Yan's shoulder. Calling the village chief is more important. You know my relationship with your father before, you have to call me uncle. Okay, then please trouble uncle. Li Yan smiled and said. Not long after, Li Yan used a chicken to exchange for a reliable introduction letter. It was still early, so he had to hurry to the 49th city so that he might arrive in the evening. Don't you see what you're up to and still want to go to the city? The son of the village chief, Li Fugui, spat as he watched Li Yan's hurried back. In the past 2 years, he has only wanted to go to the city to see the world, but his father did not agree. Therefore, when he saw Li Yan, who had never been able to deal with him, he felt jealous and unhappy in his heart. Don't be jealous, kid. Do you really think Li Yan can stand firm in the city? He's lucky if he doesn't starve to death. The village chief patted his son. Don't worry, he will come back soon. When the time comes, he will have to obediently enter the village. Yes, he can't starve to death. Li Fugui agreed. What identity do you want to go to the city? Do you know the way? Have you ever seen a car? Curse this kid for being hit by a car and half dead. Okay. At this moment, the village chief's wife stood at the entrance of the stove waving. Are you 2 gentlemen eating or not? Thinking of having meat today, the father and son quickly ran towards the kitchen, swallowing their saliva. And at this moment, Li Yan, who was walking quickly towards the village entrance, suddenly trembled all over and stopped walking. Ding, congratulations to the host, triggering the rebound system. Received a curse from Li Fugui and received a random rebound reward. Constitution +3. Tip. Li Fugui will randomly experience varying degrees of rebound. System. Traveler benefits. Accompanied by the sound of the system, Li Yan clearly felt that his body was full of strength, and it seemed that his anti-freezing ability had also become much stronger. This must be the reason for obtaining physical rewards. Li Yan was thrilled and reincarnated as a person. With a strong inner strength, he quickly accepted this surprising encounter. At this moment, a carriage happened to be going to the town for procurement. Li Yan was at least able to say that he could get on the carriage smoothly. As long as he arrived in the town early, he could catch the bus to the 49 cities. 2. Yan Fugui's kindness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. From morning until afternoon, Li Yan was on his way, and after several twists and turns, he finally arrived at the courtyard belonging to the land deed when it was getting dark. Li Yan walked in with excitement and happened to see a skinny middle-aged man wearing glasses organizing flowers and plants at the door. Li Yan scratched his head and couldn't remember for a moment, thinking to himself, why is this person so familiar? It's my first time coming to 49 cities. Young man, who are you looking for? The middle-aged man put down the kettle, helped his glasses, and looked up and down at Li Yan. Yan Fugui, please don't meddle with your flowers and plants. Come and calculate if the water and electricity bills have exceeded the limit this month. At this moment, a middle-aged lady stood at the door and shouted loudly. Seeing this, Li Yan understood that this is the world of the movie and TV series, Birds Full of Four Courtyards, that he has watched in his past life. And this person in front of me is the future 3 masters. Of course it's going home. Li Yan nodded and didn't need to explain to Yan Fugui much. He walked straight towards the backyard. Going home. Wife, come and take a look. That young man is probably the owner of the 3 rooms on the left side of the backyard. Yan Fugui shouted, and soon, the entire courtyard knew about it. Oh my god, this is too young, isn't it? It's probably just the same age as the silly Xu Damao and the others. This person looks so familiar, whose child is it? Unfortunately, I was still thinking of getting those 3 houses to live in, but I didn't expect the master to come so soon. Backyard. These 3 houses have a good orientation and a sunny courtyard of over 10 square meters. Compared to Li family village, it is very comfortable to live alone here. Due to long-term lack of human habitation, spider webs and dust are everywhere. The first thing Li Yan did when he returned home was to start a fire and then start local hygiene cleaning. Just now he bought a few pounds of charcoal and some food on the street, and he won't be hungry or cold tonight. Sitting on the brazier and soaking in hot water, all the exhaustion of the day was swept away. Li Yan calculated that it is now 5 or 3 years, and there are not many masters in this courtyard who have ranked high. Everyone is relatively young, and perhaps getting along with them is even more difficult. However, Li Yan currently has no intention of having too much interaction with these beasts. He just wants to maintain stability and live a prosperous life in the 49 cities. When the future environment improves, relying on one's own direction for future generations, not only can one become the world's richest person, but there must be opportunities to become wealthy and prosperous. What we need to do now is to stabilize and lead a good life. There was nothing to say overnight. The next morning, Li Yan got up and finished washing up. He went out with a letter of introduction and a land deed that had already been filled out. Today I need to go to the street community to register and apply for a new ID card. Currently, various regions are not very stable, and without an ID card, it is highly likely to cause big trouble. Therefore, this is the first thing I need to do when entering the city. Front yard. Early in the morning, Yan Fugui stood up, seemingly tidying up his flowers and plants, but his eyes occasionally glanced towards the backyard. After lying down last night, he carefully calculated. The new young man in the backyard, regardless of his background, is likely to be alone. Without any relatives in these 4 or 9 cities, it should be easy for oneself to establish a good relationship with him and gain some benefits, right? Hey, young man, why are you going to get up so early? At a glance, seeing Li Yan coming out of the backyard, Yan Fugui took the initiative to speak up. Have you had breakfast? Has the house been organized yet? Uncle, I'll go out and do something. Li Yan smiled and said, the house hasn't been tidied up yet. Hey, wait. Yan Fugui saw that Li Yan had no intention of talking to him, so he had to take the initiative and reached out to grab Li Yan's sleeve, saying, that won't work. We need to clean and tidy up quickly, and then we should prepare things for winter. The weather in these 4 or 9 cities is getting colder and colder. Why don't I help you tidy them up together? Don't worry, I don't have any other intention. I just saw that you couldn't be busy alone and helped you out of kindness. My name is Yan Fugui, and I live in the front yard. You can call me Uncle Yan. As for me, I am a primary school teacher, and I will definitely not harm you. Don't worry. Yan Fugui's face was full of anticipation. As long as Li Yan agreed to let him help clean, he would always thank him after finishing, right? When the time comes, just ask for a small sum of money and get yourself a new fishing rod. Uncle Yan, I'll do the cleaning myself, thank you. Li Yan smiled and nodded, then turned around and walked out of the courtyard. Yan Fugui looked at his back and shrunk his lips, feeling a bit uncomfortable. This kid doesn't know what to do. He's actually a young man. Don't you know that distant relatives are better off than neighbors? Be careful not to pass a glass of water even if you choke while eating. Shaking his head, Yan Fugui didn't have the mood to tidy up the flowers and plants anymore. He turned around and walked into the house, continuing to repair his broken fishing rod. But Li Yan, who had just left the courtyard, was pleasantly surprised to hear the sound of the system in his mind. Received a curse from Yan Fugui and received a random reward. A small surprise, distributed to your home. Tip. Yan Fugui will randomly experience varying degrees of rebound. This is the second time the rebound system has started to rebound and reward. With the experience from last time, Li Yan can basically determine how the system operates. As long as someone curses, insults, displeasure, or even frames them, there is a high probability that the reward will be triggered and the other party's curses and insults will bounce back. This is simply not too exciting. Li Yan is full of energy and in a relaxed mood. Not long after, a new ID card was successfully obtained on the street. From today on, I will become a true resident of the 49 cities. 3. This kid is not easy to deal with. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Decades later, the ID cards of the 49 cities will be very rare, and now is the best time to obtain them. When Li Yan returned, he purchased a bunch of essential items and spent 6,500 yuan on them. For the convenience of reading, this book adopts the third set of currencies. In the iron box left to him by his adoptive father, there was a land deed and 14 and 50 cents. Including the portion used on the road, Li Yan only had $5 left now. Not much, not much. If you save some money, you can sustain yourself for a month. Young man, are you new here? Oh, this is a big purchase, it cost a lot of money, right? Are you 16 years old? Where are your parents? As soon as they returned to the yard, the women who had not gone to work greeted each other and their eyes moved with Li Yan's figure. Li Yan just smiled at everyone and said hello, without any intention of answering their questions. He knew that most of the people living in this courtyard were not good people, and instead of putting in effort, it was better to live their lives quietly. Sure enough, when Li Yan walked into the backyard, everyone immediately gathered together to discuss and criticize. This kid is not easy to deal with. What's his aura? When he begged us. Scattered, eaten. Everyone shook their heads and went back to their homes. Today happened to be a break time for many factories. Seeing that Li Yan treated others like he treated himself, Yan Fugui finally felt a little better and understood that Li Yan had this personality, not any prejudice against himself. With this thought in mind, he felt that he still had a chance to benefit from Li Yan, so after eating, he walked towards the backyard with a broom in hand. "Teacher Yan, why are you going?" Xu Damao happened to be out and back when he saw Yan Fugui walking towards the backyard with a broom. He quickly asked. "Ah, it's nothing. Isn't this a new young man in the backyard? I'm trying to see if there's anything I can help with. How about those 3 houses that nobody has been living in? Let's go take a look together." Xu Damao didn't want to help, he mainly wanted to see who the new neighbor was. Before they could reach the backyard, the two of them smelled the aroma of chicken and couldn't help but accelerate their steps. Li Yan had been busy all morning, and the first thing he did when he got home was to stew the hen he brought from Li family village yesterday. He was good at cooking in his previous life. When the chicken was cooked, he could eat the coarse mantou he had just bought outside. Taking advantage of this time, Li Yan continued to clean 3 rooms. He was pouring water out, just at the heels of Yan Fugui and Xu Damao. "Oh, are you busy?" Yan Fugui is not angry. As long as Li Yan feels guilty towards him, he feels like he can get some benefits from it. Xu Damao is different. As soon as we met, he was splashed with water by his new neighbor on the bottom of his new clothes, which made him very unhappy. "Sorry, I didn't see you." Li Yan smiled apologetically and recognized Xu Damao at a glance. He was about 16 years old, but his mouth had begun to grow a thick beard that was different from that of an ordinary person. A pair of little cow eyes were staring at him. "Watch it carefully," Xu Damao exclaimed in a strange tone, holding his arm and walking back and forth in large numbers at Li Yan's doorstep. "Okay, buddy. Your house is much more spacious and has a better orientation than mine. Can we live together? My name is Xu Damao and I am your neighbor. The deaf old lady is on the far side." Li Yan continued to busy himself without looking back. "My name is Li Yan, I live alone." "Living alone?" Xu Damao and Yan Fugui exchanged a glance and looked at the boiling pot emitting the aroma of chicken soup. These days were enviable. "Li Yan, come on, I'll help you clean up together." Yan Fugui was about to enter with a broom to help, but was stopped by Li Yan outside the door. "Teacher Yan, I said this morning that I don't need your help. I can do it myself. I appreciate your kindness." "Thank you." The refusal of Li Yan's righteous words. "If there's nothing else, then go back. As you've seen, I'm a bit busy and can't entertain you." Okay. Yan Fugui's face was a bit awkward, but he could only turn around and leave with resentment, not forgetting to glance at the pot stewed with chicken soup. "It's so delicious. It would be great if I could have a few sips of soup." Xu Damao looked down upon Yan Fugui with disdain in his heart. He rolled his eyes and smiled, saying, "Li Yan, we are all young people, and I won't hide anymore. My parents are not at home today, and you are stewing chicken again. You're so greedy for me. Why don't I go steal it instead? I'll go get my dad a bottle of Nolenshan, and let's have a good drink. Let's get to know each other officially, okay?" Li Yan gave Xu Damao a faint glance and said, "Let's reschedule. I'm a bit tired today." "Shit, okay." After taking a few steps, Xu Damao turned around and added a sentence. "I can tell you, buddy, I'm not greedy for your chicken. You go to this courtyard to inquire about the living standards of Xu Damao's family. They have always been among the best in this courtyard." I thought Li Yan would change his mind after hearing this, but Xu Damao turned his head and saw that Li Yan had already entered the room, which made him grimace in anger. A penniless guy, what's his aura? Isn't it just stewed chicken? In the room. Li Yan took out a long rectangular box and took a look, which was the small surprise that the system rewarded today. 4. The Curse from Xu Damao, thank you. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Li Yan opened it and saw a set of very exquisite and high-end fishing gear, with complete accessories and a total of 2 fishing rods, which can be used in most waters. Most importantly, this is a telescopic rod, which is very rare in this era. Perhaps before finding a job, you can find a place to fish and sell for money, or marinate the fish into dried cured fish to improve your life. Li Yan thought so. Before long, the chicken soup had already been stewed, and the aroma filled the entire courtyard, making people salivate. Some half-aged children who had not eaten meat for a long time ran to the backyard and looked at Li Yan's house from afar, swallowing saliva non-stop. The people in the courtyard were restless when they smelled the flickering aroma of chicken soup. This kid started eating meat as soon as he moved in, probably a wealthy person. I'll eat chicken if it's not festive, and it's still a whole one. I think it's mostly because of money, which is really enviable. A person eats a chicken, have anyone seen it? Is it really fake? A chicken should be eaten sparingly, it's enough for our family to eat 5 or 6 times. Didn't Xu Damao and teacher Yan see that? At the home of Yan Fugui. Upon returning home, Yan Fugui meticulously recounted his encounter with Li Yan today and shared his grievances with his wife. After listening, Yan Fugui's wife rolled her eyes and said, "Old Yan, aren't you the most cunning? Why haven't you even taken a sip of soup?" I think Li Yan is very shrewd and guarded, and he is very calm. He doesn't look like a teenager, with his words and actions that surpass those of Xu Damao and others. Yan Fugui took advantage of the fact that all 3 children had gone out to smell the aroma of chicken soup and put a salt-baked peanut in his mouth to satisfy his craving. He was reluctant to chew it and smashed his mouth, thinking, "Give me some time, watch it out. I'm sure I can get some benefits from this kid to subsidize my family. Just calculate." Yan Fugui's wife extends her hand. "Give me one. No more." Yan Fugui smiled and said, "Okay, you even calculated your own wife." Yan Fugui's wife got up and walked out. "Hey, are you going? Smell the aroma of chicken soup, what else can we do?" Watching the whole family go to the yard to smell the fragrance, Yan Fugui was very puzzled in his heart. How does Li Yan feel like he has a grudge against him? Always beware of one's own good intentions. Li Yan has never been a person who stings and saves money on himself. I was like this in my previous life, but I am still like this in this life. Therefore, in the case of very lack of nutrition, a chicken leg was eaten by him with only a little soup left, and he also drank 2 or 3 liang of baijiu. Drinking and eating meat made him feel warm all over. In this cold season, let alone be more comfortable. The next morning, Li Yan heated the chicken soup, ate breakfast with 2-course mantou, and then continued to wash and dry. There's no way, these 3 rooms have been unoccupied for too long, and it's uncomfortable to live in them without cleaning them up. "Good morning, Li Yan. Have you eaten it?" Passing by, Xu Damao greeted Li Yan and also bent down to wipe his shoes. It wasn't that he was very polite, but he wanted to show off the new leather shoes he was wearing, hoping to win Li Yan's favor. Because he always felt that Li Yan was different from Lu Guangtian and these guys, and he always felt that Li Yan was a person with a little bit of money. "Good morning." Who knows, Li Yan just nodded and ignored it. Xu Damao suppressed his displeasure and asked, "Li Yan, have you done anything? How much is your salary?" This is his biggest concern. Recently, his parents have been trying to find something to do for him, and they have been spending a lot of money inquiring and finding ways. I happened to see the new Li Yan eating so well, so I held back my temper and started talking. "I just returned from the countryside and haven't started working yet." Li Yan said this directly, there's nothing to hide. Just came from the countryside. Xu Damao's eyes rolled and he began to stir up his inner thoughts. It's been a long time since we last entered the city, hasn't it? Our 4 or 9 cities are quite big. So, I'll take you out for a walk. Let's go to Wangfujing first, then to Huizhen for a walk. Familiarize ourselves with the environment, don't get lost one day and let the whole hospital see a joke. Should we go? I won't go, I still have something to do. Li Yan's painless and non-irritating appearance really made Xu Damao angry, thinking that Li Yan looked down on him. He turned around and walked out in anger. As he walked, he cursed and said, "You Li Yan, you're really as ignorant as Yan Fugui said. These 4 or 9 cities are so big that you can get lost and starve to death on the road. If you fall into that sea, it can freeze you and drown you. Pooh, it's so frustrating without a job, what the hell." Xu Damao left in a low voice, cursing and cursing. In Li Yan's mind, the sound of the system rang out. Received a curse from Xu Damao and received a random reward. Full-level car repair skill. Tip. Xu Damao will randomly experience varying degrees of rebound. This system is also too challenging and exciting, isn't it? Li Yan was overjoyed, thank you to Xu Damao. A few seconds later, he had already experienced the full level of car repair skills in his memory. Li Yan is full of confidence. In this era, there are very few skilled workers. With this skill, one can find a job with very good treatment everywhere, and it is highly respected. The social circle status is absolutely outstanding. 5. With just a small portion of money, I can't even afford to cut meat during the Chinese New Year. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. On the other side. Silly Zhu was about to go to work when his father, He Daqing, worked as the head chef in the steel rolling mill. Recently, he had also taken Silly Zhu as an apprentice in the kitchen and started receiving his salary. As soon as he turned around, Silly Zhu happened to see Xu Damao with a bitter expression on his face, which immediately made him happy. "Hey, Xu Damao, did you eat bitter gourd early in the morning? Does your face smell so bad? Oh, I'm happy to see you like this, brother." Xu Damao stopped and said harshly, "Silly pillar, don't think that having a job now will make you miserable. I tell you, Xu Damao's future work will definitely be better than yours. Hee, don't say that for now. Let's find a job and then, buddy, we'll get paid in a few days. At least we're better than you now." Silly Zhu whistled and walked out. "Hey, Xu Damao, if you encounter something, please ask me. I will definitely help you." Xu Damao couldn't help but say, "Isn't it that a newcomer has arrived in our backyard? His name is Li Yan. If you can beat him up, I'll treat you to a meal." Are you stupid or am I stupid? Why do I beat someone when I have nothing to do? Silly Zhu gave Xu Damao a white glance, and Xu Damao suddenly became anxious. He quickly said, "Hey, Silly Zhu, we grew up in the same courtyard. Why do you have the heart to see me being bullied?" I said, "Xu Damao, am I your father or mother? It's none of my business if you're being bullied." Silly Zhu gloats at his misfortune and bounces around while walking. "I'm not saying you're Xu Damao. Even a newcomer can bully you. Are you still not a man?" Shaking his head, Silly Zhu cast a contemptuous look. Help. At this moment, a sharp scream suddenly erupted from Yan Fugui's house in the front yard, startling passers-by. I saw the door of the Yan family open, and Yan Jiecheng and several children ran out in a panic. "Help, my dad, he's choking. Uncle, auntie, please help me, my dad is dying." When the crowd rushed into the Yan family, they saw Yan Fugui lying on the ground convulsing incessantly. Yan Fugui's wife wailed and frantically patted Yan Fugui's chest. Li Yan also heard the sound and stood outside from a distance to watch. Everyone exclaimed in surprise, but dared not approach. A few hundred meters away from the main courtyard is the health center. When the doctors arrived, Yan Fugui had already choked and passed out, with a pale face and faint black and purple hair. As the doctor carried out emergency measures, the second wave of doctors arrived and directly lifted Yan Fugui onto a stretcher. The stretcher was then loaded onto a cart, and a group of people rushed towards the health center, leaving only Yan's youngest son and daughter sitting on the ground crying loudly. Everyone looked at each other with fear. "What's going on, this? I heard I choked on breakfast. Everyone should be careful when eating in the future. I have a relative who choked to death while eating. Unfortunately, at least he's a teacher. I don't know if he can be saved. Jia Di, what did your family eat in the morning? Can you make your father choke like this?" Yan Jiedi cried her nose and choked up, saying, eating coarse noodles, sobbing. Everyone sighed for a moment, and those who were busy going to work went to work, while the women who were not working discussed the matter one after another. I don't know if it was intentional or not, everyone instinctively looked at Li Yan outside the crowd. As soon as Li Yan turned around and returned home, these women immediately made no secret. "I'm afraid this kid isn't a disaster star. Why did something so big happen in our courtyard? Shu, you can't talk nonsense. It's just Yan Fugui's fault for being busy eating and working. I hope we can save it. If we can't save it, we'll have to pay for it." As soon as Jia Zhang said this, everyone looked at her. "What do you think I'm doing? Is that right? Our family already ran out of money, and with just a small portion of the money, we won't be able to cut meat during the Chinese New Year." Jia Zhang snorted and turned back to the room. Before leaving, he glanced at Xu Damao and couldn't help but say, "Damao, you have also had contact with that person named Li Yan. It's better to be careful when doing things. Aunt Zhang, if you can't speak, don't speak. No one will consider you mute." Xu Damao was furious, but he didn't dare to do anything to Jia Zhang. After all, she was a notorious thug in the courtyard. Not long after, Yan Fugui's wife went back and forth, and everyone gathered around again, asking about the results with various tongues. It's okay, thank you for your concern. Our old man Yan has been saved and won't be able to work today. I have to go take his leave." Yan Fugui's wife made a false alarm, and everyone in the yard comforted her. The nervousness in her heart finally subsided. After all, if Yan Fugui dies, this money will definitely not escape. When Li Yan went out to buy something, he happened to see Yan Fugui's wife rushing to the hospital with Jifang Jiti and her two companions. Li Yan was still preparing to care, but who knew that the other party seemed to have a ghost in their heart, far away from Li Yan. Li Yan scraped his nose and thought to himself that it was Yan Fugui's curse that I was bounced back. It was him who harbored evil thoughts and took the blame himself. When something like this happened in the yard, everyone still had to save face and go to the health center to visit Yan Fugui, verbally showing concern. At this afternoon, it was clearly not suitable to look for a job. Li Yan carried his high-end fishing gear to Huizhen to fish, but he didn't know the way. He happened to pass by the entrance of the health center and thought that Yan Fugui likes fishing. He must know where to fish, so he walked in. When everyone saw Li Yan, they all felt that he was not a heartless person, so they began to care about their neighbors after moving in. He was not at all the disaster star that Jia Zhang said, and they all looked at him kindly. Yan Fugui leaned against the bed and exclaimed in surprise, "You, Li Yan, it's just a small matter. You came to see me all the time. Thank you, you're such a nice young man. Teacher Yan, you're welcome. As long as you're okay." Li Yan smiled and said, "By the way, I want to ask you where the nearest fishing spot is near here. I'm going to try my luck." Everyone finally realized that they didn't come specifically to see Yan Fugui. Fishing. Go fishing to Huizhen, just walk a few miles northeast to get there. Yan Fugui felt humiliated by Li Yan, so he suppressed his temper and said, "Fishing is a technical job. I won't wait until next weekend to take you there. By the way, I'll teach you how to fish. By the way, do you have a fishing rod? Yeah. Li Yan took out the fishing gear bag behind him and opened it. Look, there are 2 of them. Yan Fugui is a discerning person, and when he saw these 2 high-end fishing rods and other fishing gear, his eyes were filled with envy. Li Yan is here to sprinkle salt on his own wound. 6. Xu Damao was rebounded, while Li Yan gained a lot. You are listening at novel.full.audio. After Li Yan walked out of the ward, Yan Fugui felt his qi and blood attacking his heart, feeling dizzy. He was so anxious that his wife quickly called for a nurse. Old Yan, don't scare me, Old Yan. Hold on, the doctor will be here soon. Old Yan, what's wrong with you? You were fine just now. Don't die, even a few children haven't grown up yet. Sigh. Doctor. I'm fine, I just want a new fishing rod to catch some fish and improve my life. Yan Fugui covered his chest. Wife, don't tell anyone if you say, go ahead. Didn't I curse Li Yan for choking while eating yesterday? As a result, I almost choked to death today. It's really an evil sect, it's really too evil. After learning the general direction of Hohai, Li Yan walked quickly and hoped to catch some fish before dark, preferably with some harvest. On the other side, Xu Damao walked aimlessly on the bank of Hohai, looking at his peers who either had a partner, dressed exceptionally, or ate in vain. He felt annoyed. Recently, while looking for a job, my parents have been criticizing me for not being successful, which has hurt his heart and made him feel very embarrassed. In addition, Li Yan, who is new next door, seems to be quite wealthy and unwilling to take care of himself. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated Xu Damao felt. He accidentally slipped and fell off the wall over 5 meters high on the embankment, directly into the cold back sea. Inema. Ah, Gollum. Xu Damao himself knows some simple swimming skills, and in the summer, he is free to splash around in shallow water. But now it's a cold winter, and when he fell, he injured his body and the water level was deep, so he only made a few splashes and didn't even have time to shout for help. He was wrapped in the cold lake water and fainted. Li Yan knows how to fish. Before crossing the quadrangle, he would go fishing every day off and rarely had an air force. He would harvest anything big or small, but he didn't expect it to come in handy at this time. There aren't many idle people in this era, and today is not a day off, so there are hardly any other fishermen visible to the naked eye in Hohai. After Li Yan hung the earthworm on the fishing hook, he identified the remaining fish that may be present in the school and threw the rod. In no time, the swim bladder began to move, and he timed it to dry up. Good guy, not bad. On the first pole, a wild carp weighing over a pound will come up. The second pole is over 2 pounds, but it bit the secondary hook and ran off the hook. The third pole, 3 pounds. The fourth pole, the fifth pole. Throughout the entire afternoon, Li Yan caught dozens of fish, big and small, totaling about 10 pounds, which can be considered a bountiful harvest. Seeing that it was getting late and the winter days and nights were short, Li Yan finished his harvest and went home. On the way, some people also asked if these fish were being sold, but Li Yan politely refused. If he didn't acquire full-level repair skills today, he would not hesitate to sell it. Now that he has the technology, he will have to look for a job tomorrow, and food will be even less likely to be sold. Oh, this is not. Stay away from him. Li Yan has returned. He has gained a lot. I'll go, young man. You're a skilled angler. These fish have been eating for a long time. Li Yan had just entered the gate of the courtyard when he saw several men and women walking in groups towards the outside. When he saw Li Yan, some of them were momentarily stunned, and then avoided him as if they had met the plague god. Of course, more people are staring at his bucket and can't move their eyes. After all, fish is also meat and everyone is also greedy. Li Yan just smiled and didn't respond much. Li Yan, right. Xu Damao, who lives with you in the backyard, had an accident and almost drowned after falling into the back sea. He is currently under observation in the health center. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a big head passed by Li Yan and took the initiative to greet him. Oh, by the way, I'm Liu Haizhong from Hongqing Steel Rolling Plant. Would you like to come with us to see Xu Damao? Li Yan glanced at Liu Haizhong, the future second uncle of this courtyard. He shook his fingers and pointed to the fish jumping in the bucket, then smiled. You guys go first, I have something else to do. It's hard for everyone to say anything. Li Yan came to the front yard, and Jia finished his morning shift today. He was chopping firewood in the yard and glanced at the bucket of fish in Li Yan's hand. He said, "Young man, the harvest is not small. Can you make fish? If you can't make fish, you can use it to set up a team at my house. I promise you can finish it in one meal. If you have fish next time, you want to come to me to cook." No, thank you. Li Yan has never tasted Jia craftsmanship, but since he can work as a head chef in a factory with tens of thousands of people, he probably has two tricks. Returning home, the deaf old lady next door just nodded to him with a kind and compassionate smile. At this time, the old lady did not look as hunched as in movies and TV dramas. Li Yan nodded in greeting, as if he had already said hello. Li Yan first lit a fire to keep warm, drank some ginger soup, and then started slaughtering fish and cleaning internal organs. Leave a wild Crucian carp for dinner, marinate the rest with salt, and let it dry in the yard in a few days for slow consumption. After finishing all of this, Li Yan started busy with dinner, stewed with Crucian carp and tofu, paired with coarse rice. The more the Crucian carp soup was stewed, the more fragrant it became. Li Yan was not in a hurry to eat it. Instead, he took out the map of the 4 or 9 cities he bought on the way today, carefully studied it, and occasionally wrote and drew on another piece of paper to prepare for tomorrow's job search. 7. Jia Zhang came to beg for food and drink. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the health clinic. Xu Damao's parents were chatting with the neighbors in the courtyard, and he looked weakly at the group of neighbors in front of him, his face very ugly. Damn it, I didn't expect it to be so unlucky today. Even a big and small guy could fall into the back sea while walking. I lost face. Silly Zhu, that bastard knows that he can't help but laugh at himself. Hey, you know what? The new Li Yan in the backyard went to Huizhen to fish a lot this afternoon. Yeah, we met him at the gate and asked him to come and see Damao together. Guess what? Hey, they don't want to come and say they're busy slaughtering fish. If you ask me, this kid is really a loser. As soon as he moves into a quadrangle, the people in our courtyard are unlucky one after another. Shoo. I can't say that. When Xu Damao heard everyone talking about Li Yan, he immediately felt unwell. The sour water he had just vomited surged up his throat and he was retching. Silly Zhu walked in with his hands in his pockets, whistling. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, Xu Damao, you're good. Silly Zhu pointed at Xu Damao and laughed heartily. What else can you do every day? How about it? You can't die, can you? Silly pillar, go away. Seeing these two people start arguing, the other neighbors start using excuses to leave. After there are only 2 people left in the ward, Xu Damao's face darkens as he says, "Stupid pillar, this Li Yan is really a cult. Be careful when dealing with him, otherwise it's you who's unlucky. We all grew up in the same hospital. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Godly nagging, I see you're getting worse and worse." Silly pillar waved his hand and sneered. "I'm going back, you can lie down on your own." Xu Damao didn't want to continue to embarrass himself, so he quickly called for a doctor and also wanted to be discharged and go home. At this moment, it was dinner time. Silly Zhu walked into the door and sniffed the air, saying, "Who's cooking fish? It's so fragrant." Turning his head, silly Xu saw Yan Fugui and his family sitting at the door, looking in the direction of the backyard. He casually asked, "What's wrong with Teacher Yan? What's the whole family looking at? By the way, I heard that you almost choked to death while eating breakfast this morning. Is everything okay?" "It's okay, it's okay. Silly pillar, be careful too. Don't choke on your food, it will really kill you." Yan Fugui and his family looked at the silly pillar and picked up the pot, all of them casting a white eye. Silly Xu chuckled a few times, sniffed the air, and when he got home, he asked, "Dad, did you stew fish?" "Stew a fart, the new stew from the backyard." He Daching angrily retorted. "Come and move the firewood. The sky is gradually getting dark. Li Yan has also prepared for tomorrow." He opened the pot and scooped up a large bowl of steaming hot rice. Then, he opened the lid of the pot, and the smell of fish filled his face. Waiting for the mist after dispersing, he began to indulge in delicious and satisfying food. At that moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Lin Yang opened the door with a bowl and saw that it was Jia Zhang from the front yard. She looked like a starving ghost who hadn't eaten for 800 years, her eyes fixed on Li Yan's pot. "Li Yan, where are you eating?" Jia Zhang swallowed his saliva and said with some embarrassment. "I am Aunt Zhang from the front yard. I have been coughing heavily in the past 2 days. Cough cough cough, cough cough cough. I heard from an old Chinese medicine practitioner that this fish soup can treat cough. Can you please buy a bowl of fish soup from your house to make medicine? Thank you." "No, Auntie, don't be in a hurry to thank you first," Li Yan said seriously. "Firstly, I don't have much fish soup, which is just enough for me to have a meal. Secondly, I dare not let you drink it casually, otherwise your condition will worsen, and your family will count on me. Isn't that unfair to me? It's okay, it's okay. Just give me a bowl, okay?" Jia Zhang handed over the empty bowl in her hand. "No, I'm sorry." Li Yan smiled apologetically and closed the door. Jia Zhang was taken aback, then turned around and left cursing. She had never seen such an inhumane young person before. "Miser, eat you to death. Killing 1,000 knives, if it weren't for my family's Dongxu wanting to eat fish, I would have pulled down my face and begged you." Humph. In the front yard, Yan Fugui watched as Jia and Zhang went back and forth, feeling at least balanced in his heart. Zhang Shi, with a face full of dust, came back. It seems that Li Yan treats everyone the same way. The night weather is getting colder and colder. The family in Liu Haizhong was having a meal, and his son wanted to pick the egg in front of him, but he reached out and patted it back. "Just let the child take a bite." The wife in the bangs complained. "The child is still growing." "That's right, Dad, just let me have a bite of fried eggs." "Brother, I want to eat too." Eat, know how to eat, have the ability to earn money and buy eggs on your own. Eating all the eggs in the bangs, staring at his 2 sons. "I have a job now, washing toilets, picking feces, and doing odd jobs. It's very tiring and dirty. It's the most looked down upon job in our factory workshop, with a salary of 16.5 yuan. So, who are you 2 willing to go?" Upon hearing this, the 2 sons lowered their heads and left the dining table. "Dogs don't even do dung digging. I really can't rely on you." Liu Hai shook his head in anger and said to his wife. The director said these days, who can introduce someone to bring some benefits? This is secondary. If we can establish a good relationship with the director, will he have to give priority to a position like team leader in the future? Upon hearing this, Liu Haizhong's wife whispered a few words in his ear. Upon hearing his wife's words, he hesitated in his bangs. "What? Introduce Li Yan in the backyard to work as a defecator. Is that okay?" "Why can't we do it?" his wife asked in response. "He doesn't have a job yet, right? If you introduce him to a job, he might appreciate it before it's too late. Okay, I'll go ask now. Liu Haizhong got up and walked out towards the backyard. 8. Thank you, Liu Haizhong. Good luck to you. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After Liu Haizhong left, Liu Guangtian and the Liu Guangfu brothers angrily found their mother. Mom, if my dad continues like this, we'll run away from home. That's right, how could anyone be such a dad? I'm going to find my big brother out of town. Listening to the complaints of the brothers, the wife in the bangs was also speechless. You need to understand your father. He works so hard every day and doesn't eat well. How can he have the energy to work? How can he support you? Go ahead and play on the side. The two brothers are so popular that they can only go back to their own room to play. They are now 13 or 14 years old, 16 or 17 years old. How dare they go out and explore? I heard that there are still bandits in some places. Liu Guangfu is playful and has gone out to play with his peers. Liu Guangtian climbed the stairs and started hanging sandbags. He lost a fight with Xu Damao and Silly Zhu a while ago, so he has been secretly closing the door and punching sandbags in the past few days, hoping to make these two people unrecognizable in the next fight. On the other side, Li Yan was not yet full when the door was knocked on again. Who is it? Li Yan opened the door and was surprised to see the bangs in it. Compared to the other two future masters, this guy doesn't have much ulterior motives. How could he also want to come and make a profit? He, Li Yan, are you eating? The meat aroma in Li Yan's home made Liu Haizhong unconsciously swallow saliva. It's like this, I just had a full meal and was about to go to bed when suddenly I remembered something. Can I go in and talk? Okay, let's talk about it. Li Yan let him in and picked up a water glass to pour him boiling water. What's that? I just need to take a sip of fish soup. Due to the delicious taste of the fish soup, Liu Haizhong said by a stroke of luck. Drinking water is so wasteful. It takes a lot of coal to boil a pot of water now. Li Yan smiled and said, I'm sorry, Master Liu. I'll keep this fish soup for breakfast tomorrow. If you have anything, just let me know. Ah, okay, it's like this. I wanted to ask if you have a job. Liu Haizhong was a bit unhappy about not being able to drink this appetizing fish soup, but he didn't forget his purpose for today. He tricked Li Yan into working as a manure picker in the factory and then received some benefits from the director. As for me, thinking that you are new and alone, it may not be easy. I happen to have a job that I want to introduce to you, so I came to your door. Oh. What kind of jobs does Master Liu want to introduce me to? Li Yan was somewhat surprised. I really don't have a job yet. I work at the Red Star steel rolling plant to help, mainly doing miscellaneous tasks such as cleaning toilets, kitchens, and workshops. When I have free time, I can learn fitter skills in the workshop. Once you master the skills, you can become a fitter in the workshop. The fitter's salary is very good. For example, I am currently a 5th level fitter, and my monthly salary can be several tens of yuan, so it is not a problem to support my family. Liu Haizhong had a Pua-like expression when he came up, and Li Yan knew immediately that this was just a defecator. You still speak so high and mighty. To be honest, this job doesn't sound that upscale, but labor is the most honorable, right? Continuation of bangs. As long as you are willing to do it, come with me to the factory tomorrow to report. I will take you to see the workshop director. After the assessment is satisfactory, you can start working at any time. By the way, the monthly salary for this job is 16.5 yuan, which is equivalent to the salary of an 18th level apprentice. The salary is considered good. How about? Do you want to do it? Master Liu, thank you for your kindness. Li Yan thought for a moment and said. Actually, I have technical skills. I can repair cars, so I will find my own job. I won't trouble you, please go back. Can you repair a car? Liu Haizhong suddenly stood up and looked at Li Yan incredulously. The next second, Liu Haizhong judged that Li Yan was bragging. This kid is only 16 years old, about the same age as his own 2 kids. How could there be such a young mechanic who can repair cars? Shaoli, I have to talk about you now. With bangs and hands behind his back, he exudes an official tone. It's not a shameful thing to be a laborer, and there's also a decent apprenticeship salary. This is an opportunity, don't miss it. You know how to repair cars, but in the future, just brag to your peers. Bragging to us old folks will make people laugh. Since Master Liu thinks that the job of defecating worker is very good, why don't you add 2 sons to do it? Glory, let them work together. Li Yan smiled slightly, opened the door directly, and issued an order to expel guests. Master Liu, please go back. You. The Bangs were so angry that they turned around and walked out, and everyone in this courtyard had a common problem, probably due to the influence of neighbors, which was to curse and curse while walking, in order to vent their inner unhappiness. I'm so angry, you shameless guy. Living in such a nice house without a job, be careful not to let the house collapse and crush you, kid. Bah. Arriving at the front yard, Yi Zhonghai happened to be pouring foot wash water. What's wrong, Lao Lu? Yi Zhonghai couldn't help but ask when he saw the angry look on his Bangs. Who made you angry? Backyard, hey, nothing. There was a pause in the Bangs. Master Yi, is it convenient to have 2 drinks? Okay, come to my house. I have wine here. Yi Zhonghai nodded and the 2 walked into the room. Backyard. Not long after Liu Haizhong left, a surprising voice rang in Li Yan's mind. Received a curse from the Bangs and received a random reward. Full-level cooking skill. Tip. The Bangs will randomly experience varying degrees of rebound. This made Li Yan couldn't help but look in the direction of the front courtyard and silently say, Thank you Liu Haizhong, good luck to you. 9. This new Li Yan is really a disappointing star. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Liu Haizhong and Yi Zhonghai are several years older than each other, and the level of fitter is also 1 level lower. However, their relationship has always been stable, not too good, but not bad either. The 2 of them were carrying a stack of peanuts, pushing glasses and changing cups. After a few drinks, the conversation box in the Bangs opened. Lao Yi, when are you free? I'll go to the countryside to ask you. I heard that there is an old doctor in Lijia village who specializes in treating your condition. One treatment is accurate. Drink the wine from the glass in 1 gulp in the Bangs. Also, I suggest you don't hesitate to spend money. Take your sister.in.law to various hospitals of all sizes to see more, especially Western medicine. There is also a lot of expertise in this area. Yes, but don't bring up this matter in the future. Every time the question of not having a son and a half daughters is mentioned, Yi Zhonghai's expression darkens a lot. In fact, only he himself knows what kind of famous old Chinese medicine practitioners, hospitals of all sizes have been to, and now that he is not young, he and his wife no longer have much hope. You also know the relationship between my disciple and me. If he hears about it, it won't have a good impact. Liu Haizhong nodded repeatedly and said, Don't worry, Lao Yi. Jia Dongxu is a good child, and Lao Jia has passed away again. You have taken good care of him for the past 2 years and have taken good care of him in the workshop. He will definitely treat you well in the future. The Bangs are telling the truth. After Jia Dongxu's father passed away, Yi Zhonghai has been supporting his Jia family for the past 2 years. Over time, Jia Dongxu entered the Red Star steel rolling plant and became an apprentice of Yi Haizhong. He has also been doing well in his studies. This year, he has been promoted from a level 18 worker to a level 17 worker, and his salary has also increased slightly. The most important thing is that Jia Dongxu's gratitude to Yi Zhonghai is better than everyone expected. Even his mother, Zhang Shi, couldn't help but secretly criticize him a few times, so don't take advantage of others. Jia Dongxu is currently the target of Yi Zhonghai's elderly care training, so the hope of elderly care is placed on Jia Dongxu, which is well known throughout the hospital. I don't know why, but Liu Haizhong suddenly said, "Old Yi, as the saying goes, don't put eggs in one basket." But today, I'll say a little more. Jia Dongxu is a good kid, but Zhang is really good. She's a shrew who eats people and doesn't spit out bones. Have you considered the new kid from the backyard? His name is Li Yan. He's pretty and clever, but it's not easy to deal with. Yi Zhonghai's heart shook, but he didn't show it. Lao Lu, what are you saying? If you drink too much, go back and rest. Let's continue drinking another day. Okay, then I'll go. Walk slowly, it's snowing again now. Be careful not to let your feet slide down. He let out a deep hiccup in his bangs, then stopped and glanced at the snowfall. He walked towards his home, enjoying the heat. At home. Lu Guangtian was even angrier when he saw his father going out to another house to eat and drink, but he couldn't even eat a chopstick of eggs. Bang bang. Bang bang. His fist fiercely hit the sandbag, and Lu Guangtian deliberately wanted to let his father know his inner grievances. Strike, if you have enough strength to stop it, then continue to hit and I'll collapse the house. He walked over with a swaying bangs and sneered. Take a look at Li Yan in the backyard, and then look at silly Zhu and Jia Dongxu. Who doesn't have a brain? They can all make money to support their families now. You're already in your teens and still eating your own savings. Who's the useless guy to compete with? Wave your hand, and Liu Haizhong is ready to go back to the room to sleep. However, at that moment, Lu Guangtian suddenly shouted and kicked the sandbag with a flying kick. Click. A piercing crisp sound made both of them instinctively look up at their heads. I happened to see that the central beam above my head had broken and was falling down. Ah! Oh my goodness! Roaming and rumbling the next second, as the final load-bearing beam broke, other beams also broke one after another, and tiles fell with a loud clatter, causing the father and son to scream loudly. Even the wife and youngest son in the neighboring room were affected. The sound of the entire roof collapsing echoed through the silent courtyard. Everyone quickly turned on the lights, dressed in cotton clothes and running quickly with kerosene lamps. When they saw the scene before them, the whole courtyard was stunned. Several wires were sizzling with sparks, the overturned coal stove was splashing with sparks from the wind, and various household utensils were smashed to the ground, making it look unbearable. The wife and youngest son in the bangs were the least injured, only scratched their skin, but they were already frightened and covered their wounds, staring blankly at the mess on the ground. Lu Guangtian's head broke with blood and he lay on the ground, howling incessantly. It seemed that his life was not in danger. The most severely injured person seemed to be in the bangs. He lay on the ground with a face covered in blood and a pile of wood and tiles pressing on his body. At this point, he had fallen into a coma. Don't be fooled, save someone. Yi Zhonghai waved his hand and rushed forward to rescue him first. Go 2 people, report to the street office, and call a doctor by the way. When Li Yan walked out of the backyard, everyone had already helped the Liu family rest under the eaves of Yan Fugui's house, and several doctors from the health center pulled their faces as soon as they entered. I'm not talking about you, why are you doing the most things in your courtyard every day? It's really a cult. We were lying down in the middle of the night when we received a message and rushed over. The doctor complained while examining the injuries of several members of the Liu family. Everyone else had severe abrasions, except for minor fractures in the bangs that required a few days of recuperation. Ah. When Liu Haizhong woke up and saw Li Yan in the crowd, he suddenly widened his eyes, let out 2 ghost calls, and fainted again. The crowd was startled and couldn't help but mutter to themselves, this new Li Yan is really a scapegoat. In just one day, the people in the courtyard have been having trouble one after another. Little comrade. A street office staff member walked up and asked with a suspicious expression. Why is Master Liu so emotional when he sees you? Is it related to you that their roof collapsed? 10. Lightly described, chicken flies and dog jumps. You are listening at novel-full.audio. Everyone perked up their ears. I don't know. Li Yan shrugged his shoulders. Perhaps Master Liu was frightened and woke up to see my position, right? The staff nodded, seemingly agreeing with Li Yan's statement. The staff arranged temporary accommodations for a few members of Liu Haizhong's family that night, and everyone went home one after another. They were greatly shocked by tonight's incident and did not forget to check their own house beams to prevent bad luck like Liu Haizhong's family. Lao Lu, what's going on? In the old Taoist guest house, the family curled up in the room to warm themselves by the fire. Liu Haizhong, due to a bone fracture, was lying on the bed in a cast and couldn't move much. Her wife looked at Liu Guangtian with a puzzled expression and said, "Isn't our house beam always in good condition? Why did it break?" "Guangtian, you say it." The Bangs grinned in pain, sweating profusely. "What dare you hide? I broke your leg and threw you on the street as a beggar." "What did I say?" Liu Guangtian glared at his big copper bell eyes and exclaimed angrily. "I just want to practice martial arts. Can I win the next fight with silly Xu and Xu Damao? You haven't seen me hanging a pot sandbag, which weighs only 30.40 pounds. How could I possibly break such a thick beam? You blame me, I still want to blame you, Dad." Xu Damao and Yan Fugui have both said, "Don't have too much contact with that new Li Yan, otherwise you will be in big trouble." "Why don't you blame yourself?" With Liu Guangtian's roar, Liu Haizhong suddenly lost his temper, his heart racing and his back cooling. "Yes, my son is right. His mother, if I remember correctly, I cursed the collapse of Li Yan's house. Unexpectedly, it was my own house. His mother almost injured the whole family. Evil sect, too evil sect." Liu Haizhong dare not say it out loud. If someone reports and promotes feudal ideology, it would be a big problem. "Alright, let's all go to sleep. We need to find a way to repair the house tomorrow. Our family didn't have much money in the beginning, so we might have a lot of bleeding this time." Early in the morning, Li Yan woke up and had breakfast, locked the door and walked towards the front yard. He is going to apply for a job as a car mechanic at the Red Star steel rolling plant today. At present, having a stable, high-paying, and decent job is very important, which is related to his ability to marry a wife. That's right. Li Yan misses women. He was about 30 years old when he crossed over, but he was still an old bachelor. He liked women ranging from an 18-year-old girl to a middle-aged woman. Now reincarnated as a human being, with a 16-year-old body, larger capital and more abundant capital, there is no reason to continue being single. Last night, it snowed all night. Li Yan stepped on the snow and glanced at his home in the Bangs from afar. The snow was already over half a meter high, enough to keep his family busy. At this moment, Liu Haizhong's family was standing in the courtyard, pleading with the neighbors who were coming and going. When Li Yan slowed down and approached, he immediately understood. Their family is asking their neighbors to help repair and tidy up today, which can save a lot of costs. "Okay, don't worry, Master Liu. I'll come back and help you clean up after I finish buying groceries. Lao Lu, I'm taking a break today and I'll definitely give you some strength." His mother, "We are going back to our hometown in the countryside today. I can't help you. Take these 2 kilograms of coarse noodles. There are still more kind neighbors, and everyone has put in a strong effort. With food, they have provided more or less help to the family in the Bangs." At this moment, while resting on the stretcher, Liu Haizhong couldn't help but feel anxious when he saw that silly Xu had not taken anything and said, "Silly Xu, You, stop, where is your father? My dad went to the cafeteria before dawn, what's up? Master Liu, what's up? Silly Zhu asked, if you have something to do, wait for him to come back. If you're injured, take good care of yourself. I'll leave first. Stupid pillar, stop. Angry Lu Guangtian blocked his way. If it weren't for you, would our family have become like this? We don't want you to lose money, but at least you can offer some food or money as a gesture of goodwill, right? This statement caused an uproar in the audience. Is this matter related to Silly Zhu? Hey, I said Lu Guangtian, did you eat the bear's heart and leopard's gallbladder? How dare you blackmail me, He Zhu? Silly Zhu became anxious upon hearing this and rolled up his sleeves to prepare for a fight. Is it none of my business if your roof collapses? Did I lift it? You broke it yourself, okay. Everyone, give me a review. Everyone dared to speak up, but Lu Guangtian said, if it weren't for you bullying me every time, I wouldn't have been punching sandbags at home. Without punching sandbags, the beams of my house wouldn't have broken. Do you think that's the right thing to do? Hey, can you blame me for not being able to beat me? Silly pillar is so angry. So Xu Damao didn't beat you up too much, did he? Why don't you go find him? Xu Damao fell into the water and is still recovering in the hospital. Lu Guangtian said. When he comes back, I'll go find him too. Xu Damao went home last night and was hiding in the corner of the backyard wall watching the excitement. He didn't want to appear so soon and was worried that the people in the courtyard would mock him for falling into the water. At this moment, when he saw Lu Guangtian trying to blackmail him, he couldn't help it. Lu Guangtian, if you don't agree, then let's have another fight. Xu Damao walked over with a pulled face. I said, Master Liu, is your family unreasonable? Why don't I go find the staff of the street office to evaluate and evaluate? That's right, if you don't agree, let's go to the street to handle it. Silly Zhu agreed. Okay. Wave your hand laboriously in the bangs. What should I do? Li Yan is here. In the crowd, I don't know who whispered a word, but everyone instantly fell silent and turned their heads to look over.